Hello everyone and welcome to this 2020 Formula 1 season preview. I am Samuel Reiman and this is episode 1 of Samuel's Racing Show. The difference between this and shows that I've done in the past is that I'm going to try and stick with a particular theme during these shows. This one of course being a preview of the upcoming Formula 1 season. And for those who might be watching this decades or years into the future, if I could be so optimistic, you might be wondering what time of year it is right now that I'm filming this. It is actually June, because we are just getting over, or the world is just getting over the coronavirus pandemic, and that has really created an interesting calendar for this year's Formula 1 season. Currently, it is at 8 races long, although there is very much a chance that races could be added to that. One at the Circuit of the Americas in Texas, Mugello has been rumoured, Imola. So there's still more races that could be added. But one thing we know for sure, we're starting the Formula 1 World Championship this weekend at the A1 Rin in Austria, and we'll get to more of that in a minute. I should also make a note that I'm not highly convinced we'll get every single race in, because particularly here in the United States, the coronavirus pandemic is still a very real thing. And when you're flying in teams and cars and tyres and everything from all across the entire world, I think logistically that is going to be much bigger of a challenge than, say, what NASCAR has been dealing with, where everything has been, domestic in the United States. They've driven on trucks or lorries rather than, Formula 1, where everything's being done by airplane, boat, or however the heck they get everything anywhere. Who knows? So let's just put all that aside. Let's say, the schedule does go ahead as planned. We get 8-10 races in. That counts as a world championship. And at the end of the day, we're crowning a world champion at the end of 2020. Who is it going to be? Probably Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes, let's not forget, was the fastest car in pre-season testing still. Hamilton's motivated, especially, the recent Black Lives Matters movement, I think, has really got him amped up about wanting to perform well this season. Mercedes has painted their car black to promote diversity in the sport, which is a great thing. I mean, I always think Formula 1's diverse enough with having a lot of different nationalities in it. I think that's a great thing about Formula 1, but I do understand, where he is coming from, and hope Formula 1, other motorsports and everything can take steps to improve the vibe in the future for people of all different races, ethnicities, etc. Because it is a sport that everyone should be able to enjoy, because it is such a fantastic sport, Formula 1. So enough about that. Let's go back to Lewis Hamilton, the performer. There is no reason to believe he won't wrap up his 7th World Championship this season, tying Michael Schumacher on that. As a Michael Schumacher fan growing up in my childhood, that will be a little bit upsetting. Do I want Hamilton to win his 8th World Championship next year? No. I would quite be happy to see Michael Schumacher's records not get beaten. And, there's a couple little things that could stand in Hamilton's way to stop him from winning 8th title. First off, is a couple of factors that you throw in this season. First off, as I mentioned, this Formula 1 World Championship is starting at Austria, not once, but twice, and then they go to Hungary. In the past few years, Austria and Hungary, a little bit of a twistier, tighter circuit side, and also heavy on brakes, and in the middle of summer, heat is a problem there. Those are all conditions that have historically not favoured the Mercedes Formula 1 team over the past few seasons. And that could be an issue for Mercedes. We're opening what could be as short as an 8-round World Championship, probably more like 10 or something. But what could be as short as an 8-round World Championship with 3 races that Mercedes has historically not performed well at. And obviously, even if they do have the faster car and then they then proceed to go on the win next 5 races after that, if Mercedes get a bad start to the 2020 Formula One World Championship with poor performances at Hungary and at Austria, that is something that could hurt them going forward. However, will that happen? Probably not, because normally a Formula One schedule is 20 rounds long. Austria and Hungary take up 2 of those 20 rounds, so Mercedes probably wave a hand, say, that's okay, we'll suck there, we'll come out with a 5th or 6th, score points, and then we'll go back to the next race and be good. They can't go into those races with this mentality this year, because an 8-round World Championship, with almost half of rounds being held at these, circuits that they don't perform well at, they've got to better prepare their car for these circuits that historically they haven't been great at. And can a multi-million-dollar corporation such as a Mercedes Formula One team overcome this struggle? Yes. I anticipate they will have pretty good races at these 3 rounds, perhaps even the win, who knows. Of course, if they don't win, it does beg a question of which car will win it, the Ferrari or the Red Bull, to which many pundits have concluded the Red Bull as a favourite for beating Mercedes at these circuits, and I'm going to take the pundits' words on that, and also add in the factor there that I don't think we've seen the last of the rivalry between Ferrari teammates Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc. We're currently in the situation where Sebastian Vettel has not renewed his contract with the Ferrari Formula One team. We know it's been his goal over the past several seasons to win a Formula One World Championship with the Scuderia to emulate Michael Schumacher. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And if it is going to happen, though, this is his one last gasp to do it in 2020. So he might be throwing everything out there to try and make it happen this season. The problem is I'm one of many who believes that Sebastian Vettel has kind of peaked in his Formula One career. I think he's still a heck of a performer. He's still a great racing driver. You have to be a great racing driver to be in Formula One, and you have to be an exceptional racing driver to race at the front in Formula One, and he can still do that. I just think that when you're comparing him to the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, I don't think he has that extra edge anymore to be able to get it done, but I think he still thinks he has that extra edge to be able to get it done, and if that extra edge is leverage in the Ferrari Formula One team, then so be it. We'll wait and see what happens. I highly doubt Charles Leclerc is going to pull any kind of Rubens Barrichello scenarios at Austria, but Ferrari can always play the pit strategy card, who knows. So let's just assume that Ferrari have a bit of a mess of a year because they have 2 teammates that I don't think are on the greatest terms with one another, and also they have a car that many believe is the 3rd best on the grid. Let's say Red Bull has a good shot at beating Mercedes. Obviously, when I say Red Bull, I'm mainly talking about Verstappen. And it's not that Alex Albon can't, it's that Alex Albon is going to be in his first full season with a competitive car every single race. He doesn't have a win yet to his name. He's got to get over that first hurdle first. Prove himself to be a top performer, get a race victory. That would be awesome if he could do that this year. And then, he can start fighting for world championships after that. So Max Verstappen. He's good at Austria and Hungary. I almost said Hungary, and then I backed out of it and then realised, no, wait, he's good at Hungary too. Let's say Mercedes doesn't do well at the opening 3 rounds, and Verstappen does go on and build a little bit of a points cushion in the World Championship. Is Verstappen good enough at the remaining rounds after that to be able to hang on to the World Championship lead and win the championship? It would be great if the answer was yes, but honestly, I don't know what the answer is. And the reason is because we've never seen Max Verstappen really have to fight for a championship in Formula One. He's never been a driver that's gone out there and been in a situation where the team is like, all right, Max, you got to finish third place to win the title. That is a horrible radio communication voice, but you get the idea. Is he someone that can be told to, hey, scale back a little bit, if that means, taking a third place, taking a fourth place, and basically Alan Prosting it to get the prize that matters at the end of the season? I don't know. He's a little bit older, a little bit more mature now than what he was when he first came into a sport, so maybe he is. But you know what? I really love about all this is the fact that we have a short schedule. And I hope it doesn't get too long, because ultimately, the shorter you make a racing schedule, the more unpredictable the season becomes. Think of it as an extreme example. World Championship based off of one race. Well, then whoever wins a race wins the championship. 2 races, whoever gets the best average result wins the championship. Whereas you throw in a championship of 20 or 30 races, it's whoever performs better over the season. By the time you get to race 18 or race 17, there's really only 2 drivers or so mixing up a title. The fact we have an 8 race round title right now, maybe 10 or 12 or whatever, it means that title is going to be quite tight. Even if Mercedes is a dominant performing car and Lewis Hamilton is a dominant performing driver, I think the rest of his competition could keep him honest at least up until the last couple of rounds of the season. And who knows what could happen. So we've talked about the front runners. I think we've covered my thoughts on them quite comprehensively. Let's talk about the midfield, the best of the rest. I was reading an article on Formula1.com earlier that said the best of the rest car, as far as they were concerned from pre-season testing, was the pink Mercedes, the Racing Point, the Force India, whatever you want to call it. I am going to argue against that on the basis that the drivers are Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll. I believe I got that right. And I'm not entirely sure those are the 2 best midfield drivers out there. I think they're all right. But I think that if Renault and McLaren can improve their car over the upcoming rounds, that it won't be the car that will win the best of the rest championship. It'll be the drivers. McLaren's lineup is Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, which worked well last season. Carlos Sainz, I think, is a slightly better driver, and as a result, he's got a ride with Ferrari for 2021. Whereas Renault, let's not forget, one of the big stories before coronavirus and everything happened is the fact that we have Esteban Ocon and Daniel Ricciardo as the lineup in Renault, and those are 2 drivers with a lot of potential. Ricciardo's going to McLaren next year, which hasn't gone over well with Renault, it seems, and so maybe that will hurt him a little bit. The upgrades will be given to their less experienced driver Ocon, and for that very reason, I am going to disagree with Formula1.com on saying that Racing Point will finish 4th in the team standings, and I am going to say that McLaren will finish 4th in the constructor standings, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Alright, the other 4 teams on the grid: Haas F1, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, and Williams. Can I just say one thing straight off the bat? I hate that all the liveries now have gone back to being white, blue, black, grey, whatever. I think when we get those wide-angle camera shots of the start of a race, we're going to see, the black Mercedes, we're going to see a black, a purple, and a red cars racing at the front of the field into the first turn, some pink orange, yellow behind them, battling for the tail end of the top 10. And then the back half of the field is going to be all white, grey, silver and black, and we're going to have no idea who's who. I hate that the liveries have all gone back to being the same colour back there. Whatever, maybe people will realise that once they put all these cars on the track together, and they'll paint up their car. I mean, how does that work for the sponsors? Sponsors want their cars to stand out. Stop painting them grey, people. Get a little bit more creative with it. We need a green car back on the grid. I want to see a green car back on the Formula 1 grid. Alright, so what's something serious I can say about the back markers? I want to see George Russell do well. Is it because he's British? Yes. Is it because he's the number 63 and I'm the number 63 when I do sim racing and autocrossing? Yes. But also it's because I think he has a lot of potential. The Williams, many people still believe, is the slowest car on the grid. However, it's not as slow as it has been in previous years. And I really hope, George Russell can get a couple of decent points finishes out of this very short 2020 Formula 1 season. So, there we go. That wraps up our first episode of Samuel's Racing Show here. I'm going to find a way to make these all live on my new website, samuelsracingcorner.com. If you haven't checked that out yet, I'm going to put a link to it in the description below. Hope you're following me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. If you're a person who does some kind of hiring, hey, never get it if you don't ask it, right? Another thing I'm going to put in the description of the video on YouTube here is a link to an ESPN F1 article that has all they keep it updated with all the TV times for the practice sessions, the qualifying sessions, and then the race sessions for Formula 1 in the United States viewers. And I just think it's a really handy link to bookmark. So check it out in the description below. Hey, whatever happens, Formula 1 restarts this weekend, and that's a great thing to say. Have a great day, everyone.